Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm CJ Vogel out here in Atlanta, Georgia. This afternoon, of course, right behind me is the College Football Hall of Fame, where Texas and Arizona State filled the conference room earlier today to speak with the media during the Peach Bowl media days. We got a couple nuggets of to share from, including some health updates, but also some practice updates. As I film this right now, the Longhorns are on the practice field recording. Ooh, we got some action behind me right here. But as the Longhorns continue to practice on the at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's what's going on right now in Atlanta. A couple nuggets on all of this as well. Texas, Arizona State, you see the fans, you see the colors for both teams starting to fill in a little bit more as the week progressed. Of course, I got in yesterday afternoon. You saw some shirts, some logos, some jerseys, but today has certainly been a bit more of that. Of course, as both teams entered the College Football Hall of Fame earlier today, they were greeted by maybe 10 to 15 to 20 fans from each school, kind of greeting them into their media days availability at the Peach Bowl. But speaking of that as well, wide receiver Isaiah Bond, who has been a bit hobbled since the Oklahoma game, hasn't necessarily been completely healthy for the Longhorns over the second half of the season, said that he's expected to go. He's expected to play on Wednesday against Arizona State. The return to the field, of course, he did not play against Clemson after getting rolled up on late in that Georgia game in the SEC Championship. But right now, positive note for the Longhorns is Isaiah Bond is expecting back on the field for the Longhorns in this game on Wednesday. I spoke to Quinn Ewers about his possible return and what that would mean for the Texas offense. He said point blank, I don't know how teams defend against this offense with the amount of weapons that they have. Of course, Quinn spoke about the confidence he has in a DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, Matthew Golden, a Silas Bolden. But then you add Isaiah Bond back into the mix. He said there's no way for anybody to be able to double team anyone particular in this Texas offense because, again, you have to account for, well, Gunnar Helm, who's turned himself into quite the tight end for the Longhorns over the 2024 season. And, of course, the backside of the backfield pose all sorts of issues when you consider the speed of Jaden Blue and the after the catch of Trey Wisner. So a lot of optimism for maybe that full return to what we've seen for the Texas offense from Quinn Ewers today as well. On the flip side, also got to hear a little bit about from Jeff Banks, who spoke about his specialists this year as well. It's kind of been a roller coaster, I would say that, for the Texas specialists this year, particularly Bert Auburn, who did not have a good trip to Atlanta the first time that they came out here earlier in the month of December. Of course, Auburn missed a pair of kicks, had a very busy day in that SEC championship game against Georgia. But the expectation right now from Jeff Banks is that Bert Auburn will be the kicker for the Longhorns in 2025. That is something that he echoed today during media days, something that he is expecting to be the case for the Longhorns next fall in burnt orange. Whereas on the flip side, Texas went out and added a punter, Jack Bomeister, out of the portal from Utah, an all-conference guy, 2 times actually. Texas added him earlier in the portal window, averaged about 45 yards per punt. He said the hope and the plan in place at the moment is for Michael Kern to stay a part of the Texas roster, to learn and kind of develop with a year behind Jack Bomeister before taking back over the reins in 2026. Of course, you got to go through all of the plan in place right now, but that is kind of the message that we heard from Jeff Banks earlier today when talking about the future of the Longhorns specialist group, which leads us to practice itself. And I mentioned it, the Longhorns are currently on the practice field as I record this at the moment. It's about 2 p.m. Eastern time. The clocks have me all sorts of mixed up at the moment. 2 p.m. Eastern time here in Atlanta. Texas, of course, practicing at Mercedes-Benz Superdome. There are a couple newcomers on the field. I'll get to that here in a minute. But, of course, the first big injury news is Cam Williams, the right tackle, was seen with a bit of a wrap on his right knee. Cam Williams, of course, got banged up in that Clemson game after getting rolled up on a screen. He left the game in that second quarter, attempted to return right after halftime, only saw a snap before saying, you know what, we're going to shut it down today. He did not finish the game, as we have talked about throughout the week leading up to right now. But a positive note, he is on the practice field for the Longhorns today. Of course, we did not see a lot of movement. We did not see a lot of snaps. We did not see really a whole lot of other than players taking the field and maybe going through their individual stretches and individual workouts with their position group ahead of practice today. So all in all, he's on the field. We'll see what his status will be come Wednesday, a little bit later in the week as it progresses. But right now, more than anything, good to see Cam Williams on the practice field for the Longhorns. And of course, some new faces for the Longhorns, a pair of them, pair of 5-stars that I'll talk on first. Michael Terry, Lance Jackson, the two of them were throwing the football around earlier on the sideline ahead of practice today. Good to see both of them. Of course, we know that they are working and traveling with the team, obviously having been in Atlanta this morning. Lance Jackson, you see the frame. My goodness, he's every bit of 6'5", 6'6", 275 pounds. Showed off the one-hand catching ability. Of course, he was a tight end at Pleasant Grove in high school, but he's going to be working off the edge. As for Michael Terry, who I believe will be working at wide receiver to begin his Texas career, he too is made the trip to Atlanta with the Longhorns. Both of them will be working on the scout team, giving the Longhorns a look for Arizona State on Wednesday. And then moving over to the defensive line, a pair of new faces there as well. First, 5-star freshman Justus Terry, who from the great state of Georgia that we're in right now. Terry was a big win for the Longhorns the day of signing day. Actually, the first time that the Longhorns came here for the SEC championship game, that was when Justus Terry made his commitment. So all of it coming kind of full circle for the Longhorns to be back in Georgia with Justus Terry on the roster right now. And he certainly looks the part of a 5-star defensive lineman right now, carrying about 280 pounds. I talked to Coach Baker during the media days as well. He said, look, just got to get the frame right? Once you add the weight, he's going to be a heck of a football player. And I'll be completely honest, he didn't look completely out of place body-wise. And that's coming from a guy that should still be in high school preparing for his spring prom in a couple months. Also on that defensive line group is Cole Brevard, the Texas portal addition out of Purdue, the 325-pound defensive lineman who played specifically over the nose or in that A gap for the Longhorns, was working with the team as well. Look, he too looks like a guy that has played 4 or 5 years of college football. Of course, Brevard, 325 pounds. He's got a bigger frame. He certainly fits in with that of Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins. Maybe not as tall as the two, but certainly from an upper body, his arms, his torso all look like he's going to be quite a handful to move for opposing offensive linemen next year. Good to see the two of them working with Kenny Baker. Of course, Coach Baker kind of coached them up in terms of the foot hand placement, kind of getting off the ball. That was all that we saw for the Longhorns today in terms of their practices, which leads us to Coach Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers, because this is a big moment for both of them. Playing in the quarterfinal against a team that you're a 13-point favorite over in Arizona State. No time to take either of them lightly, but I did speak to Quinn about the return to Atlanta. He said, look, all you can do is take bits and pieces from previous games, previous stops, previous stadiums, and take that into your next game, right? He said one of the big things that he learned from Georgia the first trip around was converting in the red zone, making sure every opportunity is maximized. The Longhorns did not do a good job of that, obviously, with 6 field goal attempts in that game. You kick 4, or you kick 6, you make 4, you miss 2, you leave 6 points on the board at least. But I'm sure when you consider some of the red zone woes and some of the miscommunications or just not being on the same page offensively, that's something that they're going to have to absolutely clean up against Arizona State, who, again, 13-point favorites. The Longhorns certainly are expecting to come out and put on a better offensive performance as well. And, of course, Steve Sarkisian, big moment for him as well. Getting to the college football semifinal would indicate a top 4 finish in back-to-back seasons. We've talked about it. Texas is the only team in the college football playoff for the second consecutive season, but to finish top 4 would solidify, at the very least, don't get me wrong, would solidify Texas as being among the country's most elite premier programs in the country again, and that would be in year 4 for Steve Sarkisian as well. All in all, we talked to a number of guys behind me inside this morning at the SEC or at the Peach Bowl media days. The vibe is high. We talked to Trey Wise, and you said, the jokes are flowing, right? You talk to Manny Muhammad, Jelani McDonald, sitting down with, some of the cats on the team right now. They're excited for this opportunity, right? They're excited to play in Mercedes-Benz, a place that they have familiarity with already this month, and then return to the state of Texas where, they don't want to look ahead too far, but I think it was kind of hinted at a few times this morning. They know that playing in Dallas, playing at AT&T Stadium, there would be a lot of burnt orange, and there would be a great opportunity for Texas to benefit from playing in front of quote unquote a home crowd in the state of Texas. But right now, you got to get the job first, and that involves taking care of business against Arizona State on Wednesday. I also talked with Sam Levitt, the Arizona State quarterback. If you've not yet checked that out, there's a great video that we put up from Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, and Levitt in their media time today. Levitt plays with a lot of confidence, and he talks with a lot of confidence as well. I really like it from the quarterback position. Of course, he kind of doubled down on his statement earlier this week, saying, you know what, I'm going into this game hoping to prove that I am the better quarterback. I am the best player on the field. And he said, look, why would you not have that level of confidence? Of course, having seen what Texas does, his big thing is they're always in the right position. They're very rarely busting coverage, very rarely out of a gap, out of assignment. For him, it's all about protecting the football and making sure that he gets from station to station to station in terms of first downs, building drives, and getting the ball to his playmakers. That was the big takeaway that I had today from talking to Sam Levitt. Really interesting kid. It's a fun time talking to him as well. But that will do it today. Of course, the big news, Cam Williams back on the field for the Longhorns. Isaiah Bond expected to go. And then 4 newcomers on the field today. That's Lance Jackson, Michael Terry, Justus Terry, and Cole Brevard, the Texas defensive line portal transfer out of Purdue. They're all on the practice field today. Texas taking one more go-around tomorrow morning for a quick walkthrough, and then, of course, kickoff Wednesday morning out here in Atlanta. Not as cold as the first time around. I'm kind of sweating through this jacket real quick, but that's my update today. Y'all have a great Monday. And for On Texas Football, this is CJ Vogel. Y'all have a good one.